Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting and, frankly, turbulent periods in Brazilian history. We're talking about the Liberal Republic, a really bold democratic experiment that lasted from 1946 all the way to 1964. Some historians have described this whole era with this incredible metaphor: a republic in systole and diastole. So, for 18 years, just imagine Brazil's democracy as a living, breathing heart. It would expand with these huge moments of hope and progress. That's the diastole. And then it would contract under just immense political pressure, the systole, until in 1964, it stopped. So let's set the stage here. This period pops up right after a dictatorship, so it's a huge deal. Brazil is basically testing out what it means to be a democracy, but it's doing it while the whole world is being split in two by the Cold War. And what you get is this republic with a really erratic rhythm, a constant volatile cycle of progress and then crisis. And believe me, this system was under stress from day one. This was not a smooth ride. It was rocked by one political earthquake after another. You have the unbelievable suicide of a sitting president, Getulio Vargas, then a military crisis over who gets to replace him, and then the totally bizarre resignation of another president, Jânio Quadros. And hanging over all of it, every single decision, was the massive shadow of the Cold War. Now, to really get a grip on this era, you have to understand the three major political parties that were running the show. They were the main characters in this really high-stakes democratic drama. Okay, so let's break down who was who. It's actually pretty clear when you look at it. Right in the middle, you've got the PSD. Think of them as the pragmatists, the regional power brokers who were the kingmakers. They were all about stability. Then, on one side, you have the UDN. They were the staunch conservative opposition, pro-free market, and they really disliked anything to do with Vargas. And on the other side, you have the PTB, which was the rising voice for the urban workers pushing this nationalist, reformist agenda. This three-way tug of war is what defined pretty much everything. And just look at this. Look at the incredible rise of the PTB. This chart tells you everything you need to know. In less than 20 years, they went from just 22 deputies in Congress to 116. That is a massive shift. It's proof that the political gravity in Brazil was moving, and moving fast, towards the workers and this idea of nationalism. But before the whole system came crashing down, there was this amazing period of expansion, the diastole phase, the upbeat of the heart. This was the time of President Juscelino Kubitschek, or JK as everyone called him, and it was an era of just incredible optimism. JK's entire presidency can be summed up in this one super powerful slogan: 50 anos in cinco. That means 50 years of progress in 5. And this wasn't just some catchy campaign line. This was a national mission statement. It was a promise to basically slingshot Brazil into the modern world. And you could feel it in the air. This wasn't just happening in politics. The country was buzzing. They called them the Anos Dourados, the golden years. Brazil wins its very first World Cup in 1958, which was huge for national pride. And at the same time, the smooth, cool sounds of bossa nova are taking over the world. It really felt like Brazil had finally made it onto the global stage. So what was the engine behind all this progress? Well, it was an economic model they called the developmentalist tripod. It was basically a 3-part plan. First, the state would step in and build all the big stuff: roads, power plants, the core industries. Second, national companies would get a boost with cheap credit and government contracts. And third, they'd invite foreign companies to come in and build new industries, like the auto sector, which was a game changer. And the ultimate symbol of this whole vision, the absolute crowning achievement of JK's plan, was building Brasilia. Think about it. They built a brand new, totally futuristic capital city from scratch, right in the middle of the country. It was this powerful symbol designed to unite the nation and literally drive it into the future. But as we all know, a party that big comes with a big bill the next morning. And this slide really shows you the two sides of that coin. On one hand, yes, the golden years were real. You had incredible GDP growth and super fast industrialization. But the flip side, all of this progress was paid for by printing money and taking on huge amounts of foreign debt. And the hangover was brutal. We're talking raging inflation, massive debt, and a government deep in the red. And this is where the music stops. After that dizzying high of the JK years, the Republic's heart began to contract, and contract sharply. That economic hangover collided head-on with political instability, and it created a period of just intense, relentless crisis. The crisis really kicks into high gear with the truly weird presidency of Jânio Quadros. This guy runs on an anti-corruption platform, which sounds good, but then he gets into office and starts issuing these strange decrees, like banning bikinis on beaches. And then, get this, just 7 months into his term, he suddenly resigns. Out of nowhere, he just quits and throws the entire country into absolute chaos. So his vice president, Jean Goulart, or Jango, was supposed to take over. But the military was really worried about his left-leaning politics, so they blocked him. To prevent his civil war, Congress came up with this really clever, kind of tricky compromise. They switched the whole system of government to parliamentarism. You could call it a white coup. Jango got to be president. He got the title. But all the real power went to a prime minister. It was a solution, but a very fragile one.
Well, that fragile solution didn't last long. By 1963, Jango had actually managed to win back full presidential powers in a referendum. But by then, the country was more split than ever. So let's look at the final chain of events, the things that led directly to the collapse of Brazil's democracy.
At this point, you basically have a perfect storm brewing. The political division was so deep it had paralyzed the government. The Cold War, especially with the Cuban Revolution fresh in everyone's minds, created this intense fear of a communist takeover. In response, Jango pushed for his base reforms, which included land reform, something that terrified the country's elites. And maybe most importantly, the discipline inside the military was breaking down, and they had completely lost trust in the president. And then, it all fell apart with terrifying speed. In just 3 weeks, the entire political battle spilled out of the halls of Congress and into the streets. You had a giant rally for Jango's reforms, which was then answered by an even bigger conservative protest march. On March 31st, the military started to move its troops, and by April 2nd, it was all over. Congress declared the presidency vacant. The coup was complete. The democratic heart stopped beating. For 18 years, Brazil went through this vibrant, chaotic, and in the end, tragic democratic experiment. Its story, this whole cycle of expansion and contraction, is a really powerful reminder of just how quickly things like political polarization, economic trouble, and outside pressures can bring down even the most promising democracies. And it leaves us with a really important question. What can this story teach us about the fragility of democracy today?